But first, an all-girls team from Afghanistan finally made it to the U.S. this week to participate in a robotics competition. Their visas were denied twice by American officials until criticism prompted President Donald Trump to intervene and reverse the decision. The girls joined high school students from more than 150 other countries, many of whom had never seen nor made a robot before. Jeffrey Brown will look at some of the immigration policy issues this is raising once again. But we start with special correspondent Kavitha Cardoza of our partner Education Week. She spoke to some of the Afghan girls and other international students in Washington, D.C. It's part of our weekly series, Making the Grade.
Hundreds of high school students arrived in Washington from across the globe. Robotics teams from Jamaica to Jordan, Canada to Australia. There was even one representing refugees. But none of the students had a more unlikely journey, perhaps, than the crowd favorite.
Team Afghanistan.
16-year-old Kausar Roshan, one of the 6 girls, says this was her proudest moment.
I was very happy and I was proud when the people supported us. I'm happy when people feel that Afghans can do something.
This robotics competition is part of an effort to get more young people, particularly from underrepresented countries, to enter STEM field. It's a term used to include science, technology, engineering, and math. A few months ago, all teams received boxes containing hundreds of identical parts, and the students had to figure out how to take the wheels and gears, sensors and sprockets, and create a robot.
We have an old computer, but it doesn't work.
Fatima Kadairan is from the Herat province. Almost 40% of school-age children don't have access to education. Even when they do, there's often a shortage of teachers and textbooks. For many Afghan girls, Fatima says even getting to school can be a challenge because they need a man's permission.
We can't go alone and we need someone to support us, like a man, to get us to the school or other places we want to go.
Their coach, Ali Reza Meherban, says technology is hard to come by.
We don't have equipment of robotics. We don't have it.
He says even though these girls were chosen from more than 150 students, because the team has no experience in robotics, some doubted their abilities.
They say you can't because it's impossible for girls in Afghanistan can do this, really. That's too hard for us.
And what did you say when they said that?
We say we can do it. We say we can do it. Just give us a chance.
Then after they built the robot, their visas were denied twice. They were not given any explanation.
When we applied and were rejected, we are so disappointed. We are crying a lot for 6 or 7 hours.
Meherban can hardly believe they're here.
How do you feel when everyone cheers Team Afghanistan?
What I have to say, because feeling like I'm so happy. So happy, I can't describe it that. Really, I can't describe it that, because feeling like I can control myself.
80% of these teams are made up of boys, a gender gap that's reflected in STEM fields worldwide. But the inequality in education is far bigger than just STEM subjects and Afghanistan. Around the world, more than 60 million girls don't have access to any education. The reasons vary, from wars to cultural mores to something as simple as distance. Melissa Lemus is with Team Honduras.
Some of my friends live about 2 hours from the high school, or they have to take the bus.
While Gregleen Kumbanat with Team Liberia says often they don't have electricity during the day.
We need to charge the robot, but in our country we have poor electricity. We couldn't charge our phones in the day, and because of that, usually we don't practice at day, we practice in the night hour.
And like many countries here, Ruby Balami from Team Nepal says her school doesn't have a science lab. So initially she was nervous when she saw teams from developed countries, such as Japan and the US.
We think that they are much more competitive and it was a scary thing, but coming here, making them friends, now we have feel much more better and now we are much more confident.
Some last-minute tinkering and intense discussions, and then it was showtime.
You see that perfect camera shot right now and all those teams kind of crashing into that cascade.
Each country's team was paired with 2 others, often not speaking the same language. Learning to collaborate and communicate is part of the goal, says Dean Kamen, the founder of the competition First Global Challenge.
You're the first generation on this planet that could grow up with all of its kids knowing each other, working together, creating value so that you can all have better lives, we can have a better world. And that's the important thing here.
Fatima loved meeting students from other countries. She says she knows people think of Afghanistan as a place of violence and poverty, but she wants to change that perception.
War is like a habit for us because bomb blasting and counter blasting and killing people, so normal for us because we see it a lot.
She believes the only way that can change is through education. Her mother stopped at grade 6, and even now, more than 3 million children, mostly girls, are not enrolled in school. But someday, Fatima hopes to get a PhD in computer science.
Because I need this, our country needs this, to have women educated, to be new generation in the future. I want to show the world what Afghan girls or young girls can do. We can show them when we have a creative idea, we can do it.
For the PBS NewsHour and Education Week, I'm Kavitha Cardoza in Washington, D.C.
As Kavitha said, the visa question for the Afghan girls gained national attention and the direct intervention by President Trump. Alan Gomez from USA Today joins me now to talk about that part of the story. So, Alan, was this a special case, an outlier? What, if anything, does it tell us about the current situation with visas?
Well, absolutely, this was a complete outlier. I mean, understand that the Trump administration has made clear throughout its time that it will handle any visa application on a case-by-case basis. Exceptions can always be made, but this case definitely represents a very sharp departure from what has been a pretty clear strategy from this administration to limit, to restrict, to in some cases completely suspend immigration from terror-prone countries. Understand that we're still dealing with the travel ban that the president has been trying to implement now for 6 months. That's directed at 6 countries that have been labeled as having very close ties to terrorism. He's completely suspended the refugee program, all in the name of national security. And Afghanistan has never been on any of those lists of countries, but I think it'd be pretty easy to make a case that Afghanistan has a bit of a history with terrorism. So that's why this case makes it is so surprising that it's these girls from Afghanistan that have been allowed into the country.
Well, I wonder, do we even know yet why they were denied visas originally?
No, the State Department generally doesn't discuss individual cases and why it makes individual determinations. But again, when you think about the overall posture of this administration to seriously scrutinize any visa applications that are coming from countries with those ties to terrorism, it follows that trend of denying a lot of those visas from people coming from those countries.
All right, so this case plays into some larger confusions and that continuing controversy. I want to ask you about one other development in the visa world that came yesterday. The government announced they're adding 15,000 new H-2B visas. Now explain what's going on there.
Yeah, and that's just another example of why it's so difficult to try to figure out sort of what direction this administration is going when it comes to the legal immigration system in the United States. Just a couple of months ago, to give you some background, the president ordered a total review of the H-1B visa program. Those are visas dedicated to foreigners who are trained in science, technology, engineering, mathematics. They're used by U.S. technology companies to bring in computer scientists and programmers. And the Trump administration ordered a review of that program because they believe that there's too much fraud and that these technology companies are abusing that program to just import cheaper labor. So we had that as the background. They talk about American workers first, and that's sort of the posture that they've been proceeding under.
So that's H1. That's the H1. Now this is H2, which is for temporary workers.
Right, and then all of a sudden yesterday we get this announcement that they're going to approve 15,000 additional new visas for H-2B visas, and these are dedicated to lower skilled workers. I mean, think about people who work in fisheries, in hotels, in construction, in resorts, and those are the kind of workers that they're going to allow in. The argument from the Trump administration is that these companies, a lot of them were in very desperate need of the labor, that they couldn't find American workers to do that job, so they needed to bring in these additional workers to do it. But again, it sort of goes against what the administration has been arguing for all these months, that they're going to limit the immigration system to help American workers and to reduce the competition that they're facing here in the country.
All right, ever evolving. Alan Gomez, USA Today. Thanks very much.
Thank you.